Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really focusing on something vital, building mental resilience, specifically through mindfulness.
Mm.
Think of this as, well, getting you the core understanding fast, how to build that inner strength, that clarity, without drowning in info.
Exactly. We've taken the key stuff from mindfulness and mental resilience, building a stronger mind.
Right. Distilled it down. So our mission today is pretty clear, isn't it? We want to unpack how mindfulness really works as a tool for, boosting resilience.
Yeah, looking at the what, the why, and crucially the how. How you can actually use it. It's not just theory.
No, definitely practical. We want listeners to leave feeling like they get it and maybe have a few things they can try.
That's the plan. You should have a clear picture of how mindfulness can genuinely help you, well, not just survive the bumps, but bounce back stronger.
Okay, let's dive in then. Mindfulness itself, what are we talking about, really, at its heart?
Well, at its core, it's about paying attention
Yeah.
deliberately, on purpose, to the present moment. And here's the key bit, without judgment. The source material really hits that here and now focus.
Right, the non-judgment part always seems challenging.
It can be. It has roots way back in, ancient meditation, but it's been adapted for modern therapy, stress, emotional stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing is that non-reactive observation, seeing thoughts, feelings, just letting them pass by without getting tangled up.
Like watching clouds drift, that kind of idea.
Exactly like that. Or the text uses the image of a leaf on a stream. You see it, but you don't grab it.
Ah, okay. That clicks. So it creates a bit of distance between an experience and how you instantly react.
You got it. That little pause, that space. And what's really compelling now is the science backing it up.
Right, yeah, the text mentions brain changes, fMRI studies and things.
Yes, exactly. It highlights these, positive structural and functional changes. We can actually observe shifts using things like fMRI and EEG, tangible evidence.
Okay, now that's interesting. What kind of shifts are we actually seeing?
Well, for starters, research points to more activity in the prefrontal cortex.
Which is the planning, decision-making part of the brain.
Precisely. Your executive functions. At the same time, studies often show less reactivity in the amygdala.
The stress and fear center.
So it's like you're strengthening the CEO part of your brain while turn down the alarm bell.
Okay, I can see how that would be useful day to day, facing a deadline or something.
Absolutely. Instead of panic, maybe more focused strategy. And it's not just activity levels.
Oh.
The text also mentions enhanced neural connectivity, basically neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself.
So better communication between different brain areas.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Improving the network. Researcher Richard Davidson's work gets a mention here showing how practice can lead to these long-term shifts. Better mood regulation, better stress handling.
Wow. So practice actually rewires things.
It seems to. It's important to say, though, the exact ways this all happens, still being researched. It's a growing field.
Understood. Okay, so mindfulness is the practice leading to these brain benefits. Let's link it directly now to mental resilience. What exactly is resilience in this context?
Right. So the text defines mental resilience as essentially the ability to adapt well when faced with stress, adversity, maybe even trauma.
So it's not about having a perfect problem-free life.
Not at all. Problems happen. Resilience is about your capacity to navigate those tough times, to recover and keep your well-being intact despite them.
Like you might still get knocked down, but you get back up effectively.
Exactly. Think of two people facing, say, a job loss. One might crumble, feel totally lost. The other, the more resilient one, feels the blow for sure, but starts thinking about options, next steps.
Got it. So it's the bounce back quality.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And the text points out some common traits in resilient folks.
Like what?
Things like using effective coping strategies, learning from mistakes rather than letting setbacks define them,
Okay.
and generally holding on to some sense of hope, a positive outlook, even when things look grim.
Right. So the big question then, how does practicing mindfulness, this deliberate attention thing, actually build that resilience? What's the connection?
Okay, this is where it really comes together. The text explains several interconnected ways. First off, emotional regulation.
Ah, managing feelings.
Yeah. By being more aware of emotions as they start that non-judgmental noticing we talked about, you get that crucial space.
The pause before reacting.
Exactly. You notice the anger rising, maybe in an argument, but you have a moment to choose a better response instead of just snapping.
So you're less likely to be hijacked by the emotion.
Precisely. Now, judgment will still top up. That's human. The practice is not getting carried away by the stories those judgments tell.
Makes sense. What else?
Second, direct stress reduction. The text cites studies linking regular mindfulness practice to lower levels of cortisol.
The main stress hormone.
So if your baseline physiological stress is lower, your mind is just calmer, better equipped to handle new stressors when they arrive. It's like starting from a more stable place.
Right, like having more bandwidth to deal with spikes because the background noise is lower.
You've got it. Then third, there's improved cognitive flexibility,
Meaning?
meaning you get less stuck in rigid, negative thinking patterns. Mindfulness encourages a more adaptable mindset. This allows for something called cognitive reappraisal.
Which is like reframing things.
Exactly. Reframing negative experiences. Seeing a mistake not just as failure, but maybe as, okay, what did I learn here? Finding the growth opportunity.
That feels huge. Changing how you see the situation itself.
It really can be.
Yeah.
And lastly, the text emphasizes strengthened self-awareness.
Knowing yourself better.
Yep. Understanding your own habits, your triggers, your biases, just seeing them clearly. When you recognize those patterns, like, oh, I tend to shut down when I feel criticized, you gain the power to choose differently.
So you can consciously override unhelpful automatic reactions.
That's the idea. It boosts your ability to persevere because you understand your own internal landscape better.
Okay, this paints a really clear picture. Mindfulness, brain changes, resilience characteristics, and these specific mechanisms linking them. So let's get practical. What can listeners actually do? What are some concrete strategies?
Great question. The source offers several really good starting points. For daily practice, mindful breathing is right there, foundational.
Focusing on the breath.
Yep. Seems simple, right? But just paying attention to the feeling of inhaling, exhaling without forcing it. It's always available. An anchor to right now. Quiets the mental chatter.
Even just a few breaths before something stressful could help.
Absolutely. Makes a difference. It's so accessible anywhere, anytime.
True. What else?
Another really useful one is the body scan.
Okay, how does that work?
You basically guide your attention slowly through different parts of your body, head to toes or toes to head, just noticing any sensations, warmth, tingling, tightness, whatever, again, without judging them.
So just observing what's there.
Exactly. It really strengthens that mind-body connection, helps you relax, and you might notice early stress signals you'd otherwise miss. Like, oh, my shoulders are up by my ears again.
I can see that. Getting more tuned in physically.
And then there's mindful walking.
Taking a walk, but mindfully.
Right. Instead of being lost in thought, you deliberately pay attention to the act of walking. Feet on the ground, muscles moving, the sounds, the sights around you.
Turning a routine into a meditation.
Pretty much. Shifting out of autopilot into active engagement with the present moment through movement.
These are all things people could try relatively easily.
Definitely. And beyond these specific exercises, the text talks about cultivating a generally mindful mindset.
So not just during practice time, but throughout the day?
Yeah. One key part of that is practicing gratitude, intentionally noticing and appreciating the good things, big or small.
How does that help resilience?
Well, it shifts your focus, doesn't it? Away from just the stressors and towards what's positive, builds optimism. It's hard to feel totally hopeless when you're actively acknowledging good things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Counterbalances the negativity bias we often have.
Exactly. And another mindset piece is actively using that cognitive reappraisal we mentioned.
The reframing.
Yes. Making a conscious effort when things get tough. Okay, how else can I look at this? What's the opportunity here? Instead of just, this is awful.
Choosing a more constructive story about it.
You got it. And of course, consistency is key. The text stresses setting up a regular meditation practice, even just a few minutes daily.
So short and consistent beats long and occasional.
For building the habit and benefits over time, yes. Like exercise for the mind, small regular workouts add up.
Okay. And what about help? Are there resources?
Oh, absolutely. The text mentions leveraging technology. Apps like Headspace, Calm, Insight Timer, loads of guided meditations, programs, even communities.
Right, those are really popular now. Makes it easy to get started.
Very accessible. And for people who prefer something more structured or in-person, it highlights things like workshops, group sessions. Mentions MBSR specifically.
Mindfulness-based stress reduction.
Yep. And community meditation groups. So lots of options for support, guidance, and that shared experience, depending on what works for you.
Good to know there's a whole ecosystem out there. Okay, we've covered the theory, the practice. What about the real-world results? What tangible impacts does the source highlight?
Well, it emphasizes these aren't just nice ideas. Research backs them up. A big one is improved emotional health.
Less anxiety, depression.
Studies consistently link mindfulness practice to lower reported levels of both, yeah, and greater overall life satisfaction. That's pretty
That's
significant.
hugely significant, given how common those issues are.
It really is.
It,
Another major area is enhanced performance,
so.
particularly in high-pressure situations, work,
Yeah.
academics, you name it.
Hmm.
Mindfulness is linked to better focus, better attention, improved decision-making under stress.
So you think more clearly when the pressure's on.
That seems to be the effect, yeah. Even increased creativity gets mentioned. When your mind isn't constantly jumping around, you're just more effective. Think of a surgeon, maybe, needing intense focus.
Right, so it's not just about feeling better, it's about functioning better, too.
Exactly. And one more area the text touches on, stronger social bonds.
Mindfulness helps relationships.
How? By cultivating things like empathy and presence. Being really there with someone in a conversation.
Actually listening.
Yeah. Truly listening, understanding their perspective better, maybe responding with more compassion. This can improve relationships and reduce feelings of isolation, which itself is a buffer for resilience.
It all seems so connected. Your inner state impacting your outer world, your connections.
It really is. And the text suggests that all these benefits, emotional health, performance, social connection, they all weave together to build a stronger, more adaptable mental framework for dealing with, well, modern life.
So summing up this deep dive, the source material really presents mindfulness not just as a relaxation technique, but as a scientifically grounded practice for seriously building mental muscle.
Yeah, for strengthening that resilience. It frames it as a way to fundamentally change how we relate to our own minds, our thoughts, our emotions, and to challenges around us.
Learning to observe without getting swept away seems key.
That non-judgmental observation, yeah.
Yeah.
It fosters that adaptability, that ability to recover and maybe even grow through difficulty. It's cultivating resilience from the inside.
And the encouraging thing seems to be that it's accessible. Small steps, done consistently, can really build up over time.
Absolutely. Integrating these practices gradually fosters that resilient mindset, helping us handle life with a bit more, maybe grace and clarity.
It's a continuous process, not a final goal.
Exactly. A journey of cultivation. Every mindful moment counts.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful, really unpacking mindfulness and resilience, and maybe a final thought for our listeners. Just consider one tiny mindful practice you could try today. Maybe it's just 1 minute focusing on your breath, or really tasting your next cup of coffee. Just notice. See if that small moment of awareness shifts anything, even slightly, in how you feel or respond to something later. Because often, it's those small, consistent efforts where that lasting resilience really gets built.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.